Hello and a very warm welcome to today's global conversation. As Siobhan just said, this is part 3. We started doing these since lockdown and we found they've been so popular and we've had such great conversations that it's now a regular fixture in our calendar, which we're really excited about. So today not only marks that third conversation, it's also quite a special moment in that it's my last ever event as Chief Exec of the Marketing Society, which has been the biggest honour in the world. And it's equally special because it's my successor's Sophie Devonshire's first event, and I'll be introducing her in just a second. So I would like to start introducing our brilliant leaders. What I'm going to do is they're all going to introduce themselves and then we're going to get going in the conversation. So without further ado, can I ask Trish to come and join me on stage?
Hey,
Hello.
Gemma.
Hello.
It's so lovely to be here. It really is. So I'm calling in from Hong Kong, actually back in the office. So I can, I guess, lay testament to the fact that things can go back to near normal. I, as a few of you will know already, run marketing on the business to business side for HSBC. But as directed by Gemma right at the start, my most important role in life is as chair of the APAC Marketing Society. And I will just say it has been an absolute privilege to be involved in the society from its inception in Hong Kong as the first market, I think, outside of the UK. So thank you for the opportunity, Gemma, to be involved in the society. My one word is connected.
Nice, I love that. Thank you, Trish. Rajesh, come and join us.
Hi, Gemma.
Hello. Hi.
Thank you so much. This is Rajesh joining from New Delhi. I look after marketing for India and South Asia for a company called UiPath, which is in a new technology area. I've been a part of Marketing Society in India for a bit and also part of the local board. I'm delighted to be here today and looking forward to the conversation. And would you like to tell me my one word now, Gemma?
Yes.
My one word actually is intrigued. You know, so much is changing around us. So I'm always intrigued what's coming next and how different people are looking at the same thing. So I'm looking as much to learn today from different points of view, as much share how I see it. So back to you, Gemma.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mick, come and join us.
Hi, Gemma. Hi, everybody. Greetings from Edinburgh. It's firstly great to be here, particularly as your last event, Gemma, to play a role in that. But also, what I'd like to say is that I look after research, planning and brand at Sainsbury's Bank. And I'm also a former chair of the society here in Scotland, which continues to go from strength to strength.
And he was oh, sorry, I was about to say you were a brilliant chair, but you continue with your words.
My one word is hopeful.
Very nice. Very nice. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Have we got Assad? Come and join us.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Gemma. Hi there, everybody. My name is Assad. I'm from Dubai, and I work for Unilever, and I run the media, marketing, and digital transformation for Middle East, North Africa. Some parts of the work that I do also touch upon Turkey and Russia. I was also the former, and I think the first of the Marketing Society in Dubai, and fond memories of working with Gemma on launching the society in the Middle East, and then obviously taking it to the greater heights that we took it to. And then obviously after that, I handed it over to fabulous Khalid, who I know is in the audience today. So thank you, Gemma. How am I feeling today? A bit sad really to be part of the last event that you hosted. But I'm looking forward to keeping in touch with you. And you know, as you just said yourself, that it's a friendship for life. So looking forward to that.
It certainly is, Assad. Thank you so much. Wonderful. So we got Michelle. She come and join us. She was having slight issues with her video.
Can you hear me? I'm
yes.
Still not, okay. For some reason, my video says it's disabled by the host. Why do you not want to see me?
That's Siobhan. Siobhan's hosting. Don't blame me.
Oh, there we go. Maybe now it works.
Brilliant.
So thank you so much for having me. I'm glad you can see me. I'm Michelle Froh, and I run marketing strategy and marketing sciences globally for MetLife. And I would start by saying my one word is gratitude. And gratitude from all around, you know, whether it's my family, my coworkers, the little quarantine of people that we've had the privilege to see in our neighborhood, but also for the Marketing Society and for you, Gemma. I was a founding member in Singapore and in New York, and I'm on the board now in New York. And you've been a passionate leader for us, and I've so enjoyed all these conversations. So gratitude for being part of this one of your last.
Oh, thank you. My last, not one of my last. Thank you so much, Michelle. It's my pleasure for you to be part of this. So thank you so much. And last but certainly not by no means least, I am absolutely delighted to welcome my fantastic successor, Sophie. Come and join us.
Hey Gemma, hi everyone. My name's Sophie Devonshire, and from next week I will be the new Chief Executive of the Marketing Society, which is incredibly exciting. Guess the one word I would use though to describe how I'm feeling is thoughtful.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you. Well, welcome all of you, and welcome to our audience as well. So the way it's going to work is we're going to have a conversation, and we encourage you to take part and ask questions. Because there's quite a few participants, if you can use the Q&A function, as I always say, keep your questions as pithy as possible, as short as possible. And if you can say who you're directing your question at, that would really help. And I will try and bring as many into the conversation as possible. Thank you so much. So let's get going. I can't currently see Mick and Michelle. Is it just my sister? Oh, there's Mick. Brilliant. You're back, and Michelle's back as well. Wonderful. Lovely. You're all here. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to come to you first, Mick, over in Scotland. Tell us what the biggest challenge facing your business right now is.
Sure. I guess the biggest challenge at the moment is really kind of navigating an ever-changing environment. Obviously, for a lot of our industries across the globe, you know, consumer needs are changing and evolving. But I think for us as well, particularly in the financial services sector, the whole political and regulatory market is evolving pretty quickly, and more quickly than maybe we've seen in the past. And one of the key things we're trying to do is maybe navigate and make sure we're meeting customer needs, but also looking after our people. And I think that's a critical challenge for us as well, is making sure our people are doing well at these times.
What have you been doing? Just maybe expand on that in terms of what you've been doing with making sure you're looking after your people.
Sure. I mean, we set up a lot of different initiatives within the business and throughout the Sainsbury's group. Something as simple as between the hours of 12 and 1, you know, we do not put in meetings into people's diaries to make sure that people can actually take that time not to have calls and connect with what things they need to do. And I think another element within individual teams is making sure that you're setting kind of meetings up, recognizing that certain team members may have other commitments outside of work, whether that be homeschooling, which I guess a lot of us are kind of become a little bit better at, those of us who have school kids. And I think it's just really recognizing that we technically are all, unfortunately, in this together, and we're all impacted either directly or indirectly.
Yeah, no, thank you. And what about you, Asad? What about you? How are you finding things at Unilever?
So I think very similar to Nick. I think the biggest challenge, I guess, for every business has been the adapting to the fast-changing landscape, particularly from the consumer point of view. I mean, if you really try and grasp the extent of change that has happened, we sort of often refer to it, you know, nicely as it would have taken us billions of dollars in advertising, years of work to change the consumer habits that have changed over weeks, quite literally. Now, when I particularly, you know, I work in marketing overseas and I represent that side of the Unilever's affair, what you know, this crisis also did is actually took me very close to the other side of the business, which is all about managing supply chain and distribution. As you know, the importance of hand washing, etc., completely sort of changed how consumers were looking at some of our brands and some of our products. Our job was to not only make sure that we have that product available on shelf. Our job was also to make sure that we're producing sufficient amount of that and getting it across to consumers. So really an end-to-end transformation, agility, speed to market, everything just dramatically transformed. And I also say that while we utilized a lot of technology and we did a lot of automation work to make sure we have speed in what we're doing, I think a great part of what we did was done by the people, our teams, and some of our frontline workers who were in factories, who were sort of making sure that the product is available on shelf or on e-commerce shelves, while that need sort of risen amongst the consumers. I think there was some heroic work done by some of our frontline workers. And I always say that, yes, a lot of people say that digital transformation was perhaps the biggest outcome of this crisis. I think the human transformation of how we responded to it is underrated. I think we should give more credit to that.
Couldn't agree more. And actually this has really accelerated that side of something. It's definitely the humanity, but the human side of leadership particularly as well. Thank you so much. Sophie, I'm going to come to you. What have you personally found the most challenging during these times?
Well, I mean, look, Gemma, for all of us, I think these are ridiculously challenging times. And I think there is the more macro challenges as we're all trying to work out how to rebuild businesses and reshape what the world looks like in a way that's good for people and the economy and the environment, all those things. And I think they weigh heavily on everyone's minds. But then, of course, there's the personal bit of it all. And for me, starting a new role like this and not being able to see people face to face is perhaps not what I'd ideally have wanted. Although I have to say, it's ended up being quite good in other ways, in that I feel like I'm getting to know our global members and global members of the team just as much as the people in London. But it's challenging, definitely.
Yeah, our handover has been very much on Zoom, which I think we both agree we'd have preferred to be doing that face to face over something cold, wouldn't we, Sophie? Rajesh, what about yourself? What, not just your challenge, but what's also been your learning so far during COVID?
Yeah, I think I probably could also take into consideration everybody covered different aspects, and it's not very different. But the way I think of it is, the ask has been to constantly stay fluid. I mean, things have been changing at such a fast pace. You think you've kind of figured it out, but next morning you wake up, and you have to be ready for everything else to change. I think that's been at a personal level. And also, I think every time you do it, you actually feel really good. You are actually able to do it. And I think it's a great sort of mindset and muscle to build for future. And the other part as a business, because the company I work for is a very, very young business. And it's been, and one of the large, one of the key values of the company is to stay humble. In this environment, to relook at everything that we are doing for businesses, our customers, how do we keep it relevant? How do we stay humble and not sort of try to think only from a commercial angle? And I think that's been a big learning and been very gratifying, the kind of feedback and response we've seen and heard.
I love that. It's my number one value. I love that. And I've just remembered when we met in India, you said exactly that. I remember you talking about being humble. It's brilliant. Thank you. Michelle, what about you? What's the thing you're most proud of that either your business or you personally or you've been doing with your team during these times?
Yeah, boy, I'm going to narrow it down to one because I know you're not going to let me give 5. However, there's so many things to be proud of. I think last year our company had embarked on a new strategic journey and under our new CEO, and it was amazing. We made commitments to deliver for our key stakeholders like employees and customers and shareholders under a renewed purpose. And little did we know that, this year, when COVID happened, how important those tenets were going to be, because it was like our whole organization just knew what to do. You know, the pivot was almost automatic. Our organization made sure our employees were feeling okay, being taken care of. We had the right resources as people, but also as leaders. It was amazing because, you know, it happened across the world in different kind of waves. We shared stories and ideas from the markets who had a little more experience of how to continue to do that same thing for our customers, both from a frontline standpoint, but also from the back office and how you jump in and help create value and help that. But I think most of all, I'm proud of how my immediate team responded. We brought new relevant virtual insights virtual. I mean, we have done more things virtually now than I think we ever have. That's so accelerated. But also, you know, in a super agile way, as we were just talking about. So I can't believe what the team has accomplished in bringing new kinds of insights over the last 3 months. It's been amazing.
I love that. And I'm sure it's something to do as you as a leader of that team, the way you've accomplished so much. Trish, what about yourself? How have you been ensuring you stay connected with, and your word was connected, so this is very apt, with your and with your team, and also, you know, that your customers feel supported during this time?
I'll probably start with customers, actually. And we've really focused on what matters most to them. So if I take us back, and obviously as a global organization, this shifts across the world. So it's moved from China and Asia, obviously, to the UK and to the US, and obviously Latin America now. And so we've had to manage those different phases. But initially it was very much around relief measures. So companies just needed access to cash. You asked the question of how I've stayed connected. I've actually had direct conversations with a number of our customers to just understand the impact. And you know, some of our smaller customers, they've lost 70% of their revenue overnight as a result of this. So supporting them in the immediate moment with cash flow, liquidity, there's a lot of supply chain impact as well. So that was really what we did in what we termed the react phase, this immediate time. I think one of the things that I'm really proud of is we came together as an organization to drive through insight and understand customer needs. It wasn't just about, if you like, the marketing function doing that. We were getting real-time inputs from our RMs around the world. We, you know, a number of our product businesses also started collecting and sharing, and we were able to therefore collate and create a much better picture of the reality of the world in that moment. So I think that was the sort of the immediate issue that we had to address. A number of people have pointed to this. I think what came next was, how can we access the services that you offer digitally? Now, as many organizations have said, we've been trying to get our customers to do this for years, and it's staggering how effective it was to actually get our clients to start to use channels and tools that we haven't been able to get them to use in the past. And so one of the things we're really focused on now is continuing around that momentum and making sure that we are opening up our new digital channels and I guess new digital tools to clients at the point at which they're ready. But we're very aware that we need to make it as easy as possible for our customers to do business with us in the new world, and in this new world for however long we are going to be operating in the new normal. And I think probably the area that you asked about in terms of connecting with teams, I have found this time phenomenal in that as somebody who would perhaps see my teams on the ground when I visited, what I've realized through this time is I feel more connected. I know I used that word earlier, but more connected to my teams around the world than I ever have, because actually with Zoom as it is, I'm now able to have conversations with a much larger percentage of my team than I ever have been before, and to really hear what matters most to them. And I know we're going to come on to talk about Black Lives Matter, but that was really amazing to be able to reach out to our US team and hear from them directly in the moment, you know, when the protests were live and happening around them in New York. So I do feel yeah, that this is going to be a part of what I do on an ongoing basis. I will never go back to only making those connections, if you like, when I'm physically in a location.
Lovely. My internet cut out there a second, so I heard most of that. But what you just talked about, the protest, we're actually going to move on to that subject. So thank you. And I agree with the whole connected piece, because you know, as Sophie said, we're connecting more as a global community. You know, until this, we hadn't hosted one webinar. We've now hosted 35 in such a short period of time. And also, we'd only ever used conference calls, as we'll all know that have been in the global team, which we all know there's some limitations there. So actually having, you know, the new learnings of Zoom and other tools has been, it's been incredible. So I agree, it's really helped us accelerate in a big way. One of the questions that's coming through, and I want to move on to the next topic in a second. One of the questions that's coming through is, you know, brands have had to innovate much faster. Examples of, you know, Dyson and the ventilators and what have you, and obviously Formula One and what they did, and LVMH and the way they created the hand sanitizer. So many brilliant examples. Do you think, because we've had to innovate, we've had to accelerate, do you think that that this is going to give us an opportunity for us to innovate faster going forward? And I'm going to come to you, Asad, on that one.
Look, absolutely. I think the muscle memory of speed and agility that we're creating for ourselves as companies and as individuals is going to be invaluable. And I don't think the impact is going to be short-lived. I think it's going to be a very lasting impact. I was actually listening to a very interesting conversation by Yuval Noah Harari. I'm sure all of you know him. He reflected on this change and said, hey, look, the economic and social impact of what COVID's done and what we're going through in the perspective of 10 to 15 years would be dramatic, but in the perspective of 100 years may not be as dramatic. However, what it's going to leave us with in terms of behavioral change, etc., is going to be really impactful. And I think what you're talking about in terms of responding to change quickly as human beings is going to be ingrained in our muscles and ingrained in our companies as a result of that. Innovation, absolutely. The examples that people have given of LVMH starting to produce hand sanitizers were as good an example of an innovation as they were of saying, oh, there is an unmet need in the times of crisis. Let's forget about what we're doing and let's focus on meeting the needs of the people who really need something at that moment in time. So I think with innovation, what is also driven is a greater sense of really meeting the needs of consumers and putting a sense of purpose in what we do. So Heineken, for example, have done that in Latin America, where they actually dedicated all their factories to produce hand sanitizer as well. So wherever you had opportunities to produce something which the consumers needed, people sort of came together to do it. Innovation, absolutely. My reflection is that if you look at what's going on in the economy in the world right now, a lot of people are talking about the lasting impact of the recession we're going to go through. And it's evident because, you know, while there's certain aspects of consumer demands that have surged, there are a lot of other aspects of consumer demand that have actually gone down. Travel, tourism, a lot of the other similar industries. I think what we're going through is also a restructure of the economy and not necessarily a recession of the economy. And a lot of people might disagree here, but if you look at the behavior of the stock markets right now, a lot of people are saying it's completely out of whack, it's not in touch with reality. And what I'm saying is if you really look at the performance of the companies, they're people, they're businesses who are fit for future, who are thriving, and businesses who haven't done as much work in trying to be fit for future, who are actually not doing it as well. So I think there's clear two pathways for companies. One that actually makes them future fit, which most of us have sort of seemed to be going into. But there is also a danger of falling off the bandwagon if we don't take the right steps to, you know, come out of this crisis.
I love that, Asad, and I think we could actually talk about the whole event. And I'm just really aware of time, and I just want to move us on because there's lots of topics to cover, and there's a particularly important topic that I think we'd be rather remiss not to cover in our global conversation, and that's of course Black Lives Matter and the absolute tragedy of George Floyd that has made us all stop and think in a big way. So I guess I want to. Sorry, did someone say something? No. So must be a weird thing in my ear there. So I guess I just want to address this as brands and what we as brands and leaders can do. Do we think this is the tipping point that's finally going to change our world, our society, our countries, to really address Black Lives Matter more than ever before. And I'm going to come to you, Mick, on that one first.
Yes, I mean, I think what you have now is because you have all the eyes of the world on this, and obviously it's now a time for proper leadership. And if you think about the Marketing Society and the agenda you struck out on yourself in terms of being brave, you know, it is now the onus is on leaders across business, because everybody should have a voice and everybody should have an opinion. And I think what you're seeing now is a lot more leaders coming out and expressing their point of view and saying clearly it is wrong. And I think customers and consumers are beginning to realize that actually, you know, I want to do business with people who share values similar to mine. I can say from Sainsbury's point of view, our new CEO, he's just joined recently or stepped up to the CEO role. And very clearly, he's been communicating to us or re-communicating to us some of the commitments we've made many years ago. You know, we aspire to be the most trusted retailer where people love to work and shop. And it's very important to us that, you know, Black lives do have a voice within the organization. And I can talk in a while about some very practical things we do as a business. But, you know, expect more communication from us as an organization, continuing some of the initiatives that we've put in place, you know, over the last couple of years. But to answer your question, absolutely, this is a really important point. And I think this won't go away, nor should it. And I think watch this space.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it was great to see that your new CEO, Simon Roberts, on day one, promoted marketing to the board and put our mutual friend Mark Given in place, which was absolutely amazing. And it shows that he's very much somebody that, you know, courage of his convictions, he commits, which is brilliant to see. Tricia, I know you've personally committed to this from a previous conversation we were having. So could you share some of your personal commitments?
Yes, for sure, Gemma. I have to say, I think my reflection on this is that I hadn't paid enough attention to it as a leader in an organization, or as a human being, actually. And I think it really did bring to the fore some of the things that I want to lead for, certainly coming out of this. So, you know, for me, it is about building back better. And it's not okay that the status quo remains how it was. So I was actually inspired to do this by a colleague. It was via LinkedIn, a great platform, as we know.
Yeah.
And she had made commitments through the hashtag #IAM. So essentially, it's 3 commitments around the 3 things that you are going to actively do. And it inspired me to make those commitments. So my first is I'm going to educate myself on the issues and the opportunities, and the opportunities for change, actually. And that is not just from an organizational perspective, but actually within the countries. So Hong Kong, UK, you know, that we operate in. And I have to say I've started on that journey, but it's very early stages, and some of the statistics are really quite staggering. So I won't share those, but they really are. The second is actively and consciously address and lead for positive change in terms of our recruitment policies, our succession planning, engagement. So I think that is something that I genuinely know I can affect. And also those bodies that I can influence as well. So whether that's Marketing Society, whether that's the British Chamber in Hong Kong. So, you know, your reach is significant. You just need to actually think about that. So really sort of consciously thinking about those opportunities. And I think the third is I am committed to beating racism. That goes without saying. And what I want to do is to have some very concrete actions in doing so, and keep the conversation alive, and ensure that we don't, in 6 months' time, come back together like this and say, do you know what? There were some things that we should have done, but other things have now, you know, become more present and more important. So there's some really interesting, they are tactical, but some things that I think we can all do. So one of my team has hosted an exchange with 3 of our Black colleagues in marketing, and actually actively asked the question, what more could we do as leaders? And there were a number of things that came up, but actually reverse mentoring. So, you know, identify somebody who can help you understand and actually have those conversations regularly in your diary. So I thought that was a really nice and relatively easy thing to do. Ensure that it's a conversation that we bring to our management committee. So actually have people from the Black community or embrace our ERG, our internal group that actually supports our Black community, actually have them come in and attend and talk to us and look at the tools that we have available. So I think there are some very real things that we can do immediately, and there are clearly some longer term things, but those are my 3 commitments.
I love that. I love that so much. And I'm sure lots of people are scribbling down those commitments. It's brilliant. It's reminding me of, I was watching, because I agree with the educate piece personally as well. And it reminds me, I was watching a documentary recently that Oprah's put together since the incident. And her whole thing is, what do we do next? And I think that's what it's about. This is a moment, this is a tipping point, and it's to your point, we cannot dilute. And I think I know that, you know, us at the Marketing Society, it's something, to your point, the influence that we've got is huge, and it's something that we're definitely going to address. Sophie, you and I were speaking about that yesterday, how we can use our collective voice as an industry to make a difference, to make some positive change, weren't we?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a critical moment for all of us in history, and it's one that calls for talented marketers to show brave leadership, to act with empathy, and to influence as positively as possible. And actually this links into the discussion we've been having earlier about speed and being able to move fast. So I think there's something interesting here for us all to work out how we are able to respond in a way altogether, which is fast enough to show what matters and show we care. So we are being responsive, but then we're not just moving fast but in the wrong direction and getting it wrong, which is very, very easy to do. So trying to get that balance of being responsive and responsible about what we do here feels really important. But I also think this is a really complicated and important challenge, and complex problems can't be solved by any of us alone in our own businesses, in our own lives. So the opportunity to bring together the brains, the hearts, the thinking, the creativity of other people, and to share stories, to speed up action, and to discuss things together feels really important right now. So even today, we don't have enough time to start this really important discussion, but to have a little bit of getting the thinking moving and to commit to it all. I mean, I know this global conversation won't be the last time that the Marketing Society helps accelerate the thinking around this important subject.
Lovely. That's, ladies and gentlemen, why she's my successor. Thank you very much, Sophie. Michelle, what have you been doing personally with your team? I know we were talking about this before.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm fortunate enough to work for a company that has always been committed to diversity and inclusion and wanting people to feel like they can bring their whole selves to work, which is so important. But the situation, you know, being here in New York, the situation in America has been a real test of all of that and of the work that has been done by our company. What I've personally been doing with my team, and because of the environment that we're in, you know, we've been able to foster a real environment of safe spaces to have those conversations. And it's given years basically for all of our teams to really hear from others and give a safe platform so people can be heard and respected and feel equal. And, you know, that gives me a lot of hope. As Trish was saying, you know, I personally am learning as well. I think we all could dig down and come up with examples of how we may feel like we've been discriminated in the past. But you don't know, I don't know what it feels like to be Black in America in particular. And so I'd really, you know, benefited from these conversations and safe spaces.
Yeah.
So we're just encouraging more.
I love that, Michelle. Our whole thing at the Society is to create safe and comfortable spaces to have these uncomfortable conversations. Rajesh, how do you think we as leaders can, talking about the education piece and obviously, you know, Trisha's advice and everyone else, how do you think we as leaders can educate ourselves to be able to address this topic for ourselves, our teams, our organisations?
That's a really important point you make. So one of my reflections has been there is so much of conscious and unconscious bias that exists in the environment around us. And we have all the right intent, but sometimes we just don't see it because we are so much surrounded by things that are familiar and things we've come to believe as true over a period of time. So one of the things, you know, I'm taking as a personal, you know, action, and I'm trying to evangelize with more people in my team and otherwise is, you know, learn something completely different that you haven't done ever before, you know, and try to get a different perspective. And I've seen, you know, it just opens up a completely new way of looking at a thing. And once you recognize what you've been doing or what the different point of view is, it's usually very hard to ignore. And the gravity of it lands on you. And I think it helps the world. But more importantly, it helps you personally so much.
Love that. Thank you. And Asad, how do you think we can ensure that we're having these conversations and these uncomfortable conversations, but necessary, important at board level?
It's a very good point, actually, Gemma. So we actually had a really interesting thing we did in our sort of C-suite, the Unilever, in our cluster level, in the market level, where we actually did a workshop on diversity, and much before the Black Lives Matters sort of started. And we made a promise to ourselves. We said, we're going to openly call out conscious and unconscious bias if we see that happening in our boardroom in front of each other. So we're not saying we're going to go publicly, you know, sort of embarrass each other. You know, even if it has to be done, it has to be done. But in the boardroom, just mark each other openly to be able to say, hey, look, what you're saying probably represents a bias you may or may not be aware of, or where you're coming from needs a little bit of exposure to the other side's view, or what you're saying is coming from a position where you probably haven't experienced what the life at the other end looks like. I think, first of all, admitting that all of us have that bias that Rajesh also made a point of, admitting that we all of us come from that starting point because it's been deep-rooted in our society, and what you're seeing in the streets these days is because of that deep-rooted behavior that all of us are responsible for. Once we've admitted that, just making sure that we have support built in for each other to say, we're going to help you come out of that bias, we're going to help you mark yourselves. And I'll be honest with you, some of this stuff is going to take us years to correct. It's not going to happen tomorrow because it has such a large history. There's such a large impact on the society that you know, it has to happen not just in boardrooms, it has to happen next to water coolers, in coffee shops, in homes, in schools, everywhere, for it to really take impact. But yeah, I think marking ourselves as leaders is the most important thing to do.
Thank you. And I'm so aware that with time, we can't do this subject justice. So as Sophie said, it will be something that we are really looking at the moment to collaborate something very soon with key industry leaders to create something bigger. So do watch this space, but really, really appreciate everything you've said, and lots of great learning there. Thank you very much, everyone. So I'm just going to move us on because we are coming towards the end, which is unbelievable because time just goes too quickly. But if we look at the future, you know, we've all, you know, this has been unbelievable times of uncertainty. We're all learning. We've all talked about being agile, innovative, creative. What do you think, Trish, are the key things businesses could be doing right now to ensure we don't just survive, but we thrive?
Thanks, Gemma. I'm just slightly concerned by the message that's popped up saying lost audio. I hope that's not for everybody. I presume that everyone can still hear. So I think we talked about this earlier, but maintaining the momentum around digitization where it makes things easier both for our customers to do business with us, but also for our employees as well, because I think that's sometimes an area that we don't necessarily focus as much attention on as we should. I think for individuals, a real focus around the future skills that we as leaders and our teams are going to need to have to be successful as we continue to evolve. You know, this has taught us about flexibility. It's taught us about agility. It's taught us many things. And a number of these are skills that we are going to need on an ongoing basis, because the world is going to continue to get quicker, as we know, as technology advances continue. So I think creating the space and the time to enable your teams and yourself to actually build those skills is going to be really important. I think supporting our customers, and also I think from I guess a people's perspective, making sure that we behave in the right way as we build back better, both as a brand and as an organization, I think is really important. People remember those brands and organizations that supported them through the really hard times. And that is something that we have seen, you know, HSBC has seen as a company through, whether it's a financial crisis or other Asian flu, other crises that we've been through in the past. So I think recognizing how important it is that your behaviors today will impact your future success is something that we must all remember as leaders. And, you know, the support that we offer to our people and to our customers now is something that will benefit us as we move forward. I think probably the fourth area, and I'll leave it there, is don't underestimate the importance of continuing to invest in the long term. I think in times like this, as marketers, our budgets get challenged. You know, we have to find reductions in places we didn't think it was humanly possible, while still continuing to deliver almost everything that we set out to in a year. And I'm sure we're all facing those challenges. But for me, what has been really critical is I'm not allowing us to give up on those things that are actually there to ensure we're future fit. So those investments that are actually looking to play out to benefit over the next 3 years, we are really holding on to and ensuring that we don't allow ourselves to flex in those spaces.
Lovely, thank you. And Mick, I'm just going to bring you into this conversation. Do you think the pandemic will change the way we work forever? So lots of us are talking about, do we need those big offices, you know, in favour of more technology, agile spaces and world?
It's a very interesting question. And I guess for a lot of people, work has always been about a thing a person does as opposed to a place a person goes. And I think a lot of people are picking up on this kind of idea of remote working. But I guess, you know, from an inclusive perspective, we got to recognize that home working doesn't work for everybody. So I do think that office and office environments will play a role going forward. But I guess in terms of organizations being much more flexible and providing the resource and the support for people. So, you know, earlier on, we talked about some of the things Sainsbury's has done. You know, we're helping provide furniture, office furniture and screens for our employees, because again, some of us might have, you know, facilities set up, others might not. So I think from a kind of going forward position, absolutely, I think a lot more people are open to being more remote. Absolutely, people are more open to seeing themselves as themselves in their home on calls like this. But I also do think that we're social beings. You know, the idea of having a space where we can go when appropriate, offices, etc., will always play a role.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Thank you. And Michelle, what do you think the future of the marketing department is going to look like?
Wouldn't that be a nice crystal ball to know? What I do know, you know, from everything we're talking about today, is it's going to radically change. It always had been changing to say, you know, how can we bring value in new ways? And now I think what you know, what the pandemic has really shown us is that I'll take a specific example from my team. You know, we don't need to think about traditional ways of bringing insights, for example, to the organization and just doing, you know, research. We're right now thinking about almost like an editorial publisher mindset. So speaking of, you know, that really fast, agile way of working, we're thinking, trying to have foresight on what are these customer behavior changes really going to be? What's really going to be tailwinds? There's a lot of shifts going on right now, and we're designing our research and our customer understanding to understand which of those shifts that we've hypothesized about might really become trends and things that we should start helping our businesses reimagine the future on, and what things are more interesting and emerging. And being okay with that not being a buttoned up report that is, you know, 110% fact checked before we send it out. So we're doing customer weekly roundups where, you know, to the whole organization, we're sending a newsletter, if you will, that brings together the best learning we've had of that week or studies that we've seen, etc. And then also doing webinars so that we can have people feel included in that customer understanding. So I do think this more agile approach is going to be the wave of the future for marketing.
I love that. Just go for it. Try new things and worry about it later, in a sense. Thank you so much. That's very much like the society. One of the things we've learned more than ever, that, you know, through this is marketers, we need to pause, take stock, and look at the collective mind shifts of, you know, from individuals to organisations and collaborators. Rajesh, do you agree that collaboration and cooperation is the way forward for the future to make effective change happen? I think I know the answer to this question, but
Yes, I think the big question is not if, but it's how.
yes.
And I think the two ways I can think about it, and which we're trying. One, I think even within the organizations, this situation has blurred the boundaries between different functions and different teams. You know, people are thinking of a task to be done, and who's got the right set of skills or knowledge or information that they bring to it. I think that's helping change the mindset. And sometimes crises like this make it a lot more obvious and apparent. And it's also a situation when people are not sort of trying to build new structures, but trying to be scrappy and trying to figure things quickly and fast with what they have. That's, I think, one thing I'm seeing which drives towards this. Second very interesting thing I have seen is that nobody really knows what's going to happen. You know, there are multiple points of view, and there are people who are crystal gazing, but even they don't know. I think that's bringing about another type of collaboration. You know, I mean, one of my driver for coming to talks like this is to hear from more of my peers. There are no pundits any longer who've done it, been there for the last 30 years and have the recipe. Nobody has. So you listen to them with a healthy skepticism, and then you go to practitioners like on this panel and say, can I hear something? Can I learn something new? And then we go back to our customers and partners, and we are being very open with them, saying, well, we know this is a situation. You know, how can we work with you? What would you like us to do and not to do? So it's not sort of a selling conversation, and they're appreciating it. They're just bringing us all together and say, oh, I have this challenge. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And if we do that, I think business is a byproduct.
Yeah, building big relationships, and that's where you can make things happen. Absolutely. So I'm so aware we are really nearly out of time, and I want to come to all of you with your last piece of learning for our audience. So if you could give us one key takeaway, one piece of learning, what would it be? And I'm going to come to Sophie first on that one.
I think everything we've been talking about today reminds me of a couple of points. One is, and it is going to be a one key learning, I promise. But I think when we look to whatever the future is, which we have no idea what's coming, the role of marketeers is going to be more important than ever in reshaping, in building back better, and in getting things right at the right pace. And I was just thinking about a story I heard about somebody who was a great, brave leader, who lived through probably what she would have seen as unprecedented times. So the widow, Barb Nicole Kiko Ponsadin, who's Verve Kiko, was an amazing entrepreneur and leader, and she took the business through revolutions and wars and commercial, right? And I heard recently that she wrote to her great-grandchild on her deathbed or towards the end of her life and gave her some advice, which I think probably would be useful for us today as well. And she said, the world is in perpetual motion, and we must invent the things of tomorrow. One must go before others, be determined, be exacting, and let your intelligence direct your life. Act with audacity. So I love that as a call to action for us right now in terms of what's next.
I love that. I love that. Act with audacity. Absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Sophie. Asad, no pressure. What's your key learning? Take away.
I was going to say there's no way I can match what Sophie's just said. But I think, look, my key learning is when you're in the middle of a crisis, and something that, you know, this scale that has happened to the entire world, not just a certain part of the world, certain groups of people, what brings momentum back into society, economy, business is consumer confidence. And in fact, there's a Keynesian theory that when you want to come out of crisis, the most important thing is marginal propensity of a consumer to consume things or to spend things. And I think nobody does it better than marketers. If there's any discipline in the world that can actually bring back the consumer confidence to go out or to spend or to buy new things or to adapt to new behaviors, it's marketing. And I think we should never, ever underestimate the power of the role that we have to play as we recover from what we've just gone through.
Love that. I think that was pretty good, Asad.
Thank you. Thank you, Said.
Thank you so much. Trish, I'll come to you next.
I don't think I want to actually go next. The ask here was hashtag. So one line, and it's actually mine is completely aligned to my personal purpose, which, having considered, I think, for the last 2 years, I suddenly had a revelation about 10 days ago, and mine is help shape a better future for the next generation. That's what I feel I'm here to do, and I think as marketers we have an amazing role, an opportunity to do that, both from a sustainability perspective, so we have to start caring for our planet, and also from a diversity and an inclusion perspective. So I think those two key areas would be where my focus would be.
I love that, and she is right. I always give the brief of a tweet, but I thought I would, given it's my last event, I would give you slightly longer for this piece at the end. I would also add, because it's, you know, you've probably got enough space in your tweet, and have fun doing it. Right, knowing you as I do,
right.
Trish.
Too right.
Lovely. Okay, I'm going to come to you next, Mick. What's your piece of advice?
I guess always be helpful and don't be too hard on yourself or others.
Oh, I love that. Be kind. I love that. Love that. Rajesh, what about yourself?
Yeah, to me, I think my keyword is act, and act with optimism. I think that we are responsible for so many things, but one thing that our people and teams are looking up to us is to take a decisive action, and never more important than in this moment of uncertainty and unknown. So I think whatever the action may be, and whether we do it's 100% right or not, I think to act is better than not to, and
I love
lead
that.
people like that.
I love that. Act with audacity and be kind. Love all of this. Michelle, no pressure. You're last but certainly not least.
Oh my
one of my
goodness.
favorite ladies. Michelle, tell us your piece of advice.
Thank you. Well, I mean, we heard so many great pieces of advice today. I would say, you know, I would like to look for the silver lining out of any crisis. Obviously we're all experiencing this crisis at the same time. If you've ever had the pure pleasure of having a business crisis or something you've had to manage through, one thing that always comes out is this sense of more connectedness and more people coming together, you know, to solve the same problems. And I think this is one of those times for us as marketers to really live our purpose here at the Marketing Society, and be bold and be brave, and you know, really look for the ways that we can bring human beings together to progress.
I love that. Come together to progress and to make positive change and to have a bigger impact. And on that note, guys, thank you so much. Stay with me as I wrap up, because we're going to do a picture afterwards. And it's nice for the outtakes as well. So on that note, thank you all so much. This feels like a truly wonderful conversation, really memorable and really powerful. And I've changed my word from bittersweet to positive, because after the conversation today, things feel really positive. And I know that together, as we say, always say, we're stronger, and together we can make change and make positive change, which is really exciting. So if you have enjoyed, well, not if you have enjoyed, that's wrong. I'm just assuming everyone's enjoyed, but we love feedback at the Marketing Society. We always say feedback is a gift. That's going to be the last time I say that to this audience. So we really care what you think. So there's a poll coming up on the screen right now. And please just take time just to fill it in really quickly, because it allows us to ensure that we're delivering to our members what you're looking for, and we continue to build value, because that's our number one thing, is keeping our members happy and keeping our global community thriving. And we've got lots coming up next as well, which I will be watching as a guest, which is very exciting. So next Tuesday, 30th of June at 9 a.m. British Summer Time, we have Leadership in Uncertain Times coming from our hub in Singapore with our lovely partners Brand Learning and Accenture. And on Wednesday, 1st of July, Sophie and I are particularly excited about this one, in partnership with Channel 4, we have Jon Snow joining us, who's going to be revealing some stories from the 5 decades in the industry he has around, you know, how COVID times is helping breed creativity. I've been on stage with him before, and he's amazing. So very much looking forward to that, and it will be lovely admiring from afar as I see Sophie take the reins on Monday, and as I know she will do a brilliant job, and I will be there every step to support her as well. So thank you all. Last thing for me to say is it's been an absolute honor, a genuine honour to be your chief executive and to lead the Brave agenda, and I look forward to seeing what's next, and I know it's going to be incredibly exciting. So thank you to all of you. You're all amazing, and it's been really great to have my favourites with me for this last event. Thank you so much, guys. That was brilliant, and we will collate all the interesting insights for you, our members, and do some stories about them as well. So thank you. It's a final goodbye from me. And I guess all that's left to say is stay safe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.